You're lying in bed, the lights are off, and your thumb is already moving before your brain even catches up. Another video, another reel, another 30 seconds of someone yelling at you to seize the day. And you tell yourself, it's fine, it's motivational, it counts as self-improvement. But here's the part almost nobody says out loud, and it's the reason you can't sleep. You're not watching to get inspired. You're watching so the room stays loud enough that you don't have to hear your own thoughts. And if that landed a little too hard, if you just felt your stomach drop, then stay with me, because this is the exact conversation you've been dodging. Let me describe a version of you, and you tell me how close I get. There was a time when you woke up with something pulling you forward. You had goals that actually lit you up. You were ambitious, restless in a good way, always building something, always reaching. And now the mornings feel like wading through wet concrete. The nights are worse, because that's when the carousel of thoughts starts spinning and won't stop. Nothing excites you. Nothing lands. The dreams that used to keep you up out of pure hunger now keep you up out of quiet dread. And somewhere along the way, the worst thing happened. The thing nobody warns you about. You stop trusting yourself. That's not a small crack. That's a structural one. And underneath it, way down, there's this low hum of disappointment in the person you've become. Did I get close? If even half of that is true, then this is exactly where you need to be right now. Here on Brad Walker, I don't do the thing where I poke at your weak spots and leave you feeling small. That's lazy and it doesn't help anyone. My job is different. My job is to grab you by the collar in the friendliest way possible, shake the dust off, and hand you something you can actually use. Real steps. Steps that pulled me out of my own ruts more than once. And I want to start somewhere that might surprise you, because the first thing I learned about getting your fire back has almost nothing to do with feeling good. Let me tell you about the way I train. When I work out, I push to the edge, past comfortable, past pleasant, into the part where my body is genuinely begging me to stop. And people see that and ask why I do that to myself, why I'd grind that hard when I could take it easy. Here's my honest answer, and it's not about fitness at all. I do it because I've never once seen growth show up any other way. Growth comes through discomfort. You heard me right. If you actually want to develop, you do a little more than you did last time, every time. And sometimes that means working until you've got nothing left in the tank. Now, I already know the response is coming. The work-life balance crowd is going to tell me how vital it is to protect my peace. Right behind them, the folks who insist any kind of strain is toxic and self-love means never pushing. And look, I'm not here to start a fight, but I build my life on what I've actually lived through, not on a theory somebody printed in a book and sold to a million people who never tested it. Think about how it works at the level of your body. Muscle only grows when it takes damage. Tiny tears, microscopic injuries from a load heavier than it's used to. The fibers break, your body rushes in to rebuild them, and only then, on the other side of that stress, do you come back stronger. Not by staring in the mirror, wishing you looked different. Not by feeling bad about where you are. By doing the hard thing and recovering from it. You see where I'm going with this, right? Because everything I just said about muscle is true, word for word, about your career, your business, your character, your whole life. And I'm not guessing here. I've spent more than 13 years building things. Some of them worked. Some of them grew into something I'm genuinely proud of. And plenty of them collapsed. I've failed more times than I could list for you in one sitting. That's exactly why I think my experience is worth something to you. Because there is no path forward without mistakes. And I've eaten my share. The moment you start to climb, something breaks. The systems you trusted stop working. The habits that carried you suddenly can't. And every single jump comes wrapped in strain and uncertainty. The kind where you genuinely don't know if it's going to work out in the end. I'll be straight with you. I have zero illusions about some gentle, effortless version of growth. To me, that's a fantasy people sell because it's comforting. Because the truth is, while you're parked in the comfort zone, nothing changes. The absolute best you can hope for is holding on to exactly what you've already got. And I can hear some of you now. But Brad, for me, it's all about harmony, my inner peace. I don't want to grind. I want to savor life. I want to find my calm. Okay, but let me ask you something, and I want you to sit with it. Doesn't it scare you, even a little, to go your whole life and never actually find out what you're capable of? Doesn't a part of you want to build something real, to earn recognition, maybe even influence, the kind you know deep down you deserve? And here's my second question, and this one's for your gut, not your mouth. Do you actually believe that calm is everything line? Or did you just soak it up from 100 influencers repeating it until it sounded like wisdom? So if something in you whispers that you're meant for more than this, let me give you what I've got. 8 hard rules. Rules that cut directly against the soft, comforting nonsense everyone's selling right now. Rules that actually move you toward the goal, instead of letting you lie down in its general direction and call that progress. Rule 1 I already handed you, so let's lock it in. There is no growth without discomfort. Burn it into the wall. Now rule 2, and this one reframes everything. Even if you are dead set against any kind of strain, even if your entire plan is to coast through life soaking up pleasure and dodging every hard thing, here's the news. You're going to suffer anyway. There's no exit door. It works like this. You either suffer from the effort, from picking up a little more than feels comfortable, or you suffer from the emptiness, from a life where everything is stable and quiet and safe and completely hollow. No drive, no meaning, no reason to get out of bed that you actually believe. Pick your pain, because you don't get to skip it. And by the way, that emptiness is exactly where the bitter people come from. You've seen them, the ones leaving angry, sneering comments on anyone trying to do something. I genuinely believe most of them are people who could have if they'd wanted it badly enough, but who quit a long time ago. And now, the sight of someone still in the arena, still swinging, drives them up the wall. So which one are you going to be? I already know my answer. I'll be growing until the day I'm gone. I don't have some daydream about retiring at 35 and never doing anything again, because if I did that, I'm pretty sure I'd lose my mind inside a month. I need a project. I need to be building something, learning something, chasing something just out of reach. The idea of spending the rest of my life resting and working out and nothing else sounds like a slow death to me. It gets old fast. So yes, I love the process, and I'm grateful it exists. But there's a catch, like always. I am never 100% satisfied with where I am. I always want more. For myself, for my family, for the people around me. There's an old saying I love that fits this perfectly. Beyond the mountains, there are more mountains. It's about those moments when you think you finally made it. You're standing on the summit, and then you look up, and there's a whole new peak waiting. And honestly, I think that's the entire point. That's the whole thing. Let's keep moving. Rule 3, and it's a brutal one. Stop believing your critics. Sounds simple, right? In practice, it's one of the hardest things on this whole list. Because for some reason, we believe criticism more than we ever believe praise. You felt that. 10 people tell you it was great, 1 person tears it apart, and guess which voice you carry home. Research into how the brain works actually explains why. Even when you're sitting still, doing nothing, a huge chunk of your mental bandwidth is scanning your social environment. Who said what? Who looked at you how? Who's thinking what about you? We are, at our core, profoundly social creatures. And being accepted, being one of the group, feels like survival to the oldest part of the brain. But that instinct, useful as it once was, needs careful handling now. Because in the real world, there will always be people who genuinely benefit from you failing. And they will criticize you, sometimes quietly, sometimes without bothering to hide the venom. And here's the cruelest twist, the one that catches everyone off guard. The harshest critics are usually the people closest to you, your own circle. The reason is simple and a little sad. Your growth unsettles them. It knocks them off their familiar track, holds up a mirror they didn't ask for, and so they pull, gently or not, to drag you back down to the average where everyone's comfortable. I've lived this more times than I can count. The first real gut punch came when I decided, partway through college, to throw myself completely into building my own thing, instead of finishing the safe, expected path. The friends I had then mocked me relentlessly. No degree, you'll never land a job, you'll never amount to anything, on and on. And I'll be honest, it landed hard. It hurt. Then there was the first time something I made went out to a real audience, years back. The comments rolled in, and I remember spotting maybe 10 or 15 openly nasty ones, real hatchet jobs. I lost sleep over it. I chewed on it for days. But somewhere in that misery, I finally understood something that changed everything. Another person's opinion of you almost always comes from what little they know about you. And if you dig even deeper, it comes from what they know and feel about themselves. Let me make it concrete. Almost everyone has that one neighbor or buddy who tried to open a little food cart, a coffee stand, a small shop, and it went under. And now he tells you, with total conviction, don't get into that business. Don't touch that. It's a trap. Then you walk through any city in the country and you see thousands of those exact stands thriving. So you have to ask, was the problem the business? Or was it the particular guy who ran his into the ground? And then the harder question, why do you let his outside opinion outweigh your own sense of what you can do? I had this same experience with opportunities everybody around me dismissed. Years ago, I started looking into a few directions that the people in my life called sketchy. A scam, a fad that would be dead in a year. And the funniest part, a lot of years went by, and those same people who warned me off are now scrambling to catch up, trying to understand the very thing they mocked, because they finally see how much they let slip by. I got lucky in one specific way. In that moment, I didn't listen to the chorus handing out their lovely opinions. I trusted my own read instead. And here's the painful flip side I want you to hear, because it's the honest part. It wasn't always like that. For most of my life, I did the opposite. I handed the steering wheel to other people's opinions over and over. I got serious about that direction a few years after I first noticed it. And if I just trusted myself from the start, I'd have arrived years earlier with far more in front of me. So I lost plenty by waiting, but I'll tell you what that regret did. That ache over the doors I let close became the fuel for a lot of what I built afterward, including the community I eventually gathered around me. Because I understood that if I'd been standing next to the right people sooner, I'd have caught the wave earlier. I wasn't, so I didn't. And that became a fire under everything that came next. So let's sum up Rule 3. Don't listen to armchair critics. The only opinions worth weighing belong to people who are genuinely closer to your goal than you are. Everyone else, I promise you, eventually just fades out. Their words never turn into anything real, and they get forgotten. And one practical trick when criticism hits you, ask yourself one question. Is there anything in this I can actually use? Is any of it really about me? If yes, take it, learn from it, get better. If no, then it's not about you at all. It's just noise from someone passing through. Let it go and keep walking. There's no other way to handle it. Rule 4. Start testing yourself. Here's the fastest way I know to build real grit. Put yourself in situations where there is simply no other way out. You already understand this on some level. When the road behind you is gone, your brain shifts into a completely different gear. You switch on. You start hunting for solutions, moving forward, doing things you'd have sworn you couldn't. Picture the plain version. Say you need to make $5,000. If there's no deadline, no real pressure, you'll drag it out, stall, invent reasons not to start. But now imagine you need that money right now, today. It's a genuine emergency. It's the middle of the night where you are. Everyone's asleep, and then it hits you. It's 3 hours earlier out on the West Coast. People are still awake, still working. So you start calling clients across the country. You figure something out. You sell something. You make it happen. That's my whole point. When a person backs themselves into a corner, the brain starts running at the absolute edge of its capacity. I've deliberately built situations like that for myself more than once. The simplest example goes back to college. My mom used to slip me money to live on. Not on any schedule, a little here and there, but enough. Nothing huge, but rent was covered, food was covered, the basics were handled. And I remember the exact moment. I think I was around 18 when it hit me with total clarity that if this kept going, I'd have no reason to do anything real for a very long time. Because at 18, you don't need much. Roof over your head, food in the fridge, a few bucks to go out with friends on the weekend, and you're set. You have no real wants, no pressure. So I walked up to my mom and I said, let's make a deal. Starting today, you don't give me a single dollar, no matter what. Tomorrow, I might show up and tell you I'm drowning in bills, I've got nothing to eat, nowhere to sleep. Doesn't matter. Whatever the situation, let's agree right now that you won't cave, you won't fall for it, you won't hand me a dime. Honestly, I couldn't tell you today what planted that idea in my head back then, but the conviction was crystal clear. I needed to forge some real independence in myself. And I have to take my hat off to my mom here, because there were absolutely times I came back and told her how hard it was, how much I was struggling, laying it on thick. And she acted like it had nothing to do with her. She held that line every single time, never broke it once. In the moment, it felt awful. It felt cruel even, but it forced me, plainly and simply, to build my first real income. And out of that came a lesson I've carried ever since. Even when you're young, Even when you're green and have no idea what you're doing, you will always find a way out, and you'll learn to untangle absolutely any situation life drops on you. Pull the camera back, and it's true for everyone. Real growth begins right where the comfort zone ends, where you have to endure something, where you put a lot on the line, where you do the things that scare you and wear you down. Which brings me straight to Rule 5. Stop making excuses. Picture this. You're applying for the job you actually want. Everything's clicking, you sail through the rounds, you're fired up, locked in. One step left. Finish a small assignment and send it in tomorrow. And then, of course, life detonates. The kid spikes a fever, fussing every 5 minutes. You're frazzled, exhausted, your head won't work. Throw in a rough night of sleep, the dog gets sick, the car won't start, the universe seems personally against you, and you just can't pull it off. The deadline comes and the assignment isn't ready. So you go in, you explain, you say, "I'm so sorry. There were real reasons. Things outside my control. You know how it is." And here's the thing, they probably will understand. They'll nod, they'll sympathize, somebody might even feel bad for you. Because honestly, I think a lot of people lately have gotten soft, if I can put it that bluntly. Marinated in all these trendy ideas about ease and finding yourself and decompressing and inner calm. And somewhere in there, they forgot what it means to actually work, what discipline even feels like. But the outcome doesn't care about any of that. The job goes to the person who got it done, on time. It stings, but that's the hard truth of how the world runs. There's a saying that nails it. It might not be your fault, but it's still your problem. Sure, you can shed all responsibility, say there were circumstances, and you can even believe it down to your bones. But then what? You've collected everyone's permission to be mediocre, and now you have to live with it. Because when you strip it down, an excuse is just a way to get respect without the result. Look, I didn't do it, but value me anyway, because obviously the circumstances were against me. And here's the part that really cuts. Deep inside, you know. You know you could have done better. You could have done more. And that's the moment that's heaviest of all to carry. So the way I see it, real growth starts exactly where every excuse runs out. Either you give the maximum, or you quietly back away from the life you say you want. And what does giving the maximum actually mean? It means working with one intention. I will do what's needed. Listen carefully. Not the best I'm capable of, but specifically what the situation requires. Even when you don't know how, you'll figure it out, you'll learn, and you'll deliver the actual result that's expected of you. You find the solution instead of offering up another round of reasons. It all starts with one admission. The result matters more than the excuse. Everything else is just the habit of moving forward no matter what. Rule 6. Don't quit. Simple as that. Don't give up. And I mean this completely seriously. In almost any field on earth, you can pass the majority of people for one reason alone: because you didn't stop. Not after a month, not after 6, but you carried it through to the end of the year. Not because you're some prodigy, not because your brain runs on rocket fuel, or you got some magical head start, just because most people bail the second they don't see instant results. There's a fact you've probably heard, that nearly any skill can be taken to a solid, functional level in about 20 hours. 20 hours, not 20 weeks. And the real problem was never that it's long or that it's hard. The problem is people manage to stretch those first 20 hours across 5 whole years. It's almost unbelievable. You want to learn guitar? You don't need to be born musical. You don't need years with a teacher. Carve out 20 real hours and you'll be able to play. Not like a pro, but genuinely, decently. And right here is where the whole thing turns. Most people quit not because it's hard, but because the work gets boring. You have to repeat the same thing. There are no quick wins. Nobody's clapping for you. That, I think, is the exact dividing line between the people who actually move forward and the ones who abandon every project at the halfway mark. There's a phrase I love that says it perfectly. The world belongs to those who keep going even when they can't see the result yet. And I believe that's just plain true. Strength isn't inspiration. Strength is when you keep doing your work despite everything, pushing the reward off to later. That's where the real growth begins. Let me use myself again. My first time speaking in public, more than 10 years ago now. I'd spend forever building the presentation, then 2 hours psyching myself up, I'd walk out on stage, fumble, sweat through my shirt, go red in the face from sheer stress. Afterward, I'd need something like 15 hours of sleep just to feel human again. And if you told me back then that it could ever feel any different, I genuinely wouldn't have believed you. Today, after some hundreds of talks, I understand it was just a skill, plain and ordinary. As I often say, we love the things we're good at. And we get good at the things we've put enough hours into. The magic was never in talent. It was in not stopping when it got dull, when it felt pointless, when nothing seemed to be changing. That's where real growth lives. Everything else is just a comfortable story you tell yourself about why it didn't work out. Rule 7. Kill your fear. Changing something in your life is frightening, sure, but if I'm honest with you, it's far more frightening to spend years regretting that you never even tried. When you really look at it, your whole life comes down to a single question. What scares you more? Getting rejected, being wrong, hearing the word no, or spending the next few decades replaying the moment you didn't take the step? I've gotten stuck in this trap plenty. I could spend months turning a thing over in my head, sometimes years circling a single decision, agonizing, postponing, when I knew perfectly well I just needed to rip the bandage off. Because the mistake itself happens fast. You make it, it's over. Or, just as often, you act and realize it was never a mistake at all. But the not deciding, the endless waiting, that's what lingers with you for years. I've caught myself thousands of times thinking I should have moved sooner. There were ventures I held on to way too long. Projects I was scared to let go of, scared to release, scared to step into the unknown where you can't see what's past the edge. And the rule is simple. If you feel it and you know it, you take the step and you cut. I could have started so many things earlier and reached the same point with far more to show for it. Each of you has a pile of these, the things you'll look back on someday and regret. And the reason is almost always the same. We tell ourselves everything happens when we're finally ready to take the leap and shoulder the risk. So, let me hand you a trick to shrink the fear. Ask yourself, honestly, what actually happens if you fail? Realistically, you're not going to die. You're almost certainly not going to end up on the street. Worst case, truly worst case, you crash on a friend's couch or with family for a couple of weeks. Yeah, in the moment, it might be embarrassing, but that's just experience, and it'll pay off later. And here's the key part. The sting fades incredibly fast. Those answers do something powerful. They make the future concrete. Because fear grows fattest in the fog, in the parts that are blurry and undefined. The second you've got a clear plan, everything calms down. And yes, a plan for retreat matters too. That's part of it. One more thing, and it's especially for the younger people listening. If you're scared to make a big move now, while you have almost nothing tying you down, just wait until there are kids, a mortgage, a business depending on you. It only gets harder. The responsibility you take on doesn't go anywhere. It stays with you for good. You can postpone forever, and the fear only swells with each passing year. So here's the takeaway. If you're scared, don't run. Take the fear apart piece by piece. When you can see the concrete steps in front of you, the panic shrinks. And if you're still scared after that, well, better to be scared and do it than to spend your whole life wishing you had. Quick pause here, because I want to hear from you, and this matters to where you are in your life. How old are you right now? Drop it in the comments. I'm asking for a real reason, because that rule about acting before the obligations pile up hits completely differently at 22 than it does at 42. And I'm genuinely curious where most of you are standing as you listen to this. Tell me which of these rules hit you the hardest, because I read every single one. And finally, rule 8. The hard path is the easy path. I know that sounds backwards, but here's the truth in it. If you actually want to get somewhere, stop hunting for the easy road. It's a mirage, an illusion that doesn't exist. Everyone's out there searching for the secret cheat code, the hack, the way to cut the corner so they don't have to sweat. Just look at what racks up the most views online. Life hack, how to hammer a nail faster. Life hack, how to tie your shoes in 2 seconds. But here's the catch. Nothing valuable sits on the surface. The things that genuinely matter, freedom, strength, money, your own business, influence, a spine that doesn't bend, none of it ever comes for free. Take a dead simple example. You decide to learn a language, and that same day, an ad pops up. Learn fluent Spanish in 7 days. No boring grammar, no study abroad. Just listen to our audio 10 minutes a day and you'll speak like a native. Sounds amazing. But anyone who's actually reached a real level, the kind where you can hold your own in any room, knows it's a specific, grinding road. It's books, it's films, it's picking apart your own mistakes, constant practice, feedback, more practice. It is not 7 days. Sometimes it's 7 years, sometimes longer, depending on where you start. And that, in reality, is the shortcut because it actually works. All those easy options are like skating along the surface. It might look graceful from the outside, but you never once touch the depth. Any real result is built from hundreds of small, dull, repetitive actions, day after day, with no instant payoff. The kind where you've half forgotten why you even started, but you keep going because there's no other way to arrive. And the great irony is this: people spend years searching for a shorter road, when if they just set off down the long one from the beginning, they'd have arrived ages ago. That's why the hard path is the only real easy path. Everything else is just an endless hunt for a way to hack a system that in the end only leads you away from the result and slows you down. So that's the 8. And before I let you go, I want to leave you with something you can actually do. Not a command, just a direction worth considering. Pick one. Just one of these rules. The one that made you flinch a little. And put it into motion this week. Don't try to overhaul your entire life by Sunday. Choose the smallest version of the hard thing and do it once, then once more. Test yourself in one small corner. Refuse one excuse you'd normally accept. Take one step you've been circling for months. Momentum doesn't come from a giant leap. It comes from the first honest move, and then the next one. And one last thing worth saying plainly: everything I've shared with you here is one person's hard-won perspective, drawn from my own wins and my own faceplants. It's meant to get you thinking and get you moving, not to stand in for guidance built around your specific situation by someone who knows the full picture of your life. Take what fits, leave what doesn't, and trust yourself to tell the difference. If even one idea here shook something loose, or handed you a little fuel, or made you see your own situation from a new angle, then it was worth recording. So tell me in the comments which of these hard rules landed dead center for you, which one you're taking with you. I genuinely read all of it, and your feedback is what pushes me to make more of this. If this hit home, hit the like button and subscribe to Brad Walker. We're climbing toward 1,000 subscribers, and every single one of you moves us closer and helps these videos reach the next person who needs them. Don't be afraid to take the first step. Don't be afraid to get it wrong. Just don't stay frozen in place. I'll see you in the next one.